إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, to proceed, to continue our explanation of the book of Ibn Rahimahullah in the grammar of the Arabic language, al-Ajrumiyyah. However, before we carry on, just to very quickly summarize what we have explained so far. Therefore, Ya Alim al-Haq, if we wanted to say, indeed Muhammad has returned from Egypt. Indeed, Muhammad has returned from Egypt. We would say, how would we phrase that in Arabic?
Indeed, Muhammad.
Well, let's start off with Muhammad has returned from Egypt.
Yeah.
What are we going to begin with?
Failure.
Right, it's al-Jumlatul Fi'liyyah, therefore we're going to begin with the fi'lun, which is he returned, beginning with ra, raja, raja'a.
Raja'a Muhammad.
Right. Raja'a Muhammadun
min Misri.
Right. Min Misra. Raja Muhammadun min Misra. But we want to say that it has happened. Therefore, what do we place before Raja?
Laqad.
Right. Laqad or qad. Qad. قد رجع محمد من مصر. Therefore here, Ya Alim al-Haq, what are the indicators of the asma'un, if there are any, and what are the indicators of the af'alun, if indeed there are any? So beginning with asma'un, what are the asma'un? Muhammadun is one, and the second is Misra. Right, Hassanan. If Muhammadun is a ismun, ma hiya alamatuha, ma hiya alamatuhu, what are its indicators? Right. At-tanweenu. Right, the first indicator is at-tanweenu. So out of the four, right, out of the four indicators of al-ismu, how many do we have on Muhammad?
This one.
Just one. We don't have alif lam. We don't, it's not makhfudun, right? Because فالاسم يعرف بالخفض, it's not مخفوض, it's مرفوع. التنوين, we do have a tanween. دخول الألف واللام, we don't have alif and lam. حروف الخفض, is it preceded by a حرف من حروف الخفض? No. So we only have one Muhammadan. As far as Misra is, then what are the indicators of it being an ismun? Do we have, is it makhfudun?
Should be mahfud.
Right, but it's not.
Oh, I think it is because of it's mamnu.
Because it's mamnu min as-sarfi. So it should be, right, but it is not for an udhr. We say for li udhr, for a reason, an excuse, and that is that it is a mamnu min as-sarfi. So it should be. However, what are the other indicators if there are any? Does it have a tanween?
Yeah. No.
No, there's no tanween.
No alif lam.
No alif lam. What about harfun min haruf al-khafdi? Yes, it's preceded by min. Right, and min is the first harfu khafdin that Ibn Ajrumiyyah rahimahullah mentioned in his book. Remember, he said wahiya min wa ila. So min is the first one. So we have Muhammadun and Misra. As far as al-af'alu, are there any af'alu?
Yeah.
Yes, raja'a. And in relation to the indicators of raja'a, there are 4. وَالْفِعْلُ يُعْرَفُ بِقَدْ. We have a qad. وَالسِّينِ وَالسَّوْفَ وَتَاءِ التَّأْنِيثِ السَّاكِنَةِ. Do we have ta'u ta'nith as-sakina? No. Do we have seen?
No.
Do we have sofa? No. So all we have is qad. All we have is qad. So the meaning of this is qad. Raja Muhammadun min Misra. Indeed, Muhammad has returned from Misr, Egypt. But the qad here, remember what did we say? What type of harfun is it? Harfu at-tahqiq. Right? It means it has occurred. Right? Hasan. So, thereafter, Ibn Ajrumiyyah rahimahullah mentions wal harfu al harfu la ma la yasluhu ma'ahu dalilu al-ismi wala dalilu al-fi'li. Thereafter, Ibn Ajrumiyyah rahimahullah mentions this in his text. Wal harfu. So we have already discussed fal ismu thumma wal fi'lu, the indicators of both. Then he rahimahullah moves on to wal harfu ma la yasluhu ma'ahu. What does that mean? Ma la yasluhu ma'ahu. That what is not correct with it, or not appropriate or suitable with it. Dalilul ismi. Dalilun means proof. Or here indicator of al-ismi. Wala dalilul fi'li. Nor the dalil of a fi'l. Meaning that once you've identified al-ismu and you've identified al-fi'lu, by virtue of the indicators, what remains therefore must be al-harfu. It must be al-harfu. And the reason why it must be al-harfu, because if one of the indicators of al-ismu or al-fi'lu was present, then it would either be al-ismu or al-fi'lu. And if it's not, it must mean that it is al-harfu. So, for example, min. Min is harfun min huruf al-khafdi. Hasanan. Lan. Lan is a harfun min hurufi al-nasbi. It makes it mansuban, doesn't it? Lam is a harfun min hurufi. No, it doesn't make it mansuban, it makes it majzumun. السكون. قد حرف من حروف التحقيق. The point is therefore that these four examples of harufun do not have any of the indicators and cannot assume any of the indicators of either al-ismu or al-fi'lu. What does that mean? It means that the first example, فَالْإِسْمُ يُعْرَفُ بِالْخَفْضِ. Right? So we can't say, for example, me, ni, with al-kasrah. We can't say la, ni, la, mi, qa, di. We can't say any of them. Similarly, we cannot say mi, nun. We cannot say la, nun, lamun, qadun. Similarly, we cannot say al, minu, or al-lanu, or al-lamu, al-qadu. And similarly, can they be preceded by a harfu khafdin? Remember, because the indicator of al-ismu is that it can be preceded by al-harfu from huruf al-khafdi. And that's how you recognize it to be al-ismu. So therefore, min, let's assume we did not know what min was. And we want to identify it. Right? Min, of course, is a mabniyun ala sakun. And then, somebody writes or says, ila min. Right, we now have min, which preceded by ila. The fact that it is preceded by ila, does that render min to be harfun min huruf al-khafdi? Because the indicator, according to Ibn al-Ajrumiyyah, is that you can precede it with harfu khafdin. Well, we've preceded min with another harfu khafdin. Sorry?
Yeah, another harfu khafdin.
No, but if you're saying yes, therefore that must mean this is an ismun. The answer is
no.
No. Why? For the same reason, if somebody wrote kataba, 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 unless the intent of the person who said it or wrote it is repetition, unless that was what he intended, does it make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. So the very fact that somebody has written it or spoken it, it doesn't mean that it's correct. Because it still must convey a correct meaning. And in addition to that, it cannot become makhfood. Simply because it's preceded by ila, it doesn't become me, it doesn't become majrurun, does it? Because it's a mabniyun ala sakuni. So therefore, it being preceded isn't necessarily an indicator that it is an ism. It has to be a correct construction. Similarly, the indicators of al-fi'lu min. Can we precede it correctly with qad? No. With seen? No. With sofa? No. With ta'u at-ta'nith as-sakina? No. Therefore, as Ibn Ajrum rahimahullah said, that it wouldn't be appropriate to identify any of these with what we identify either al-ismu or al-fi'lu. So that is, insha'Allah ta'ala, quite straightforward, right? Is that clear, ya Mulhab? Hasanan. Thumma nantaqil. Then we continue we move on to Babu al-i'rabi. Why do we say Babul i'rabi? Because it's an idafatun. Mudafun and mudafun ilayhi. Babul i'rabi. اقرأ يا نم الحق. الإعراب الإعراب
وتخطير.
الإعراب هو تغيير تغيير أواخر الكلم لاختلاف لاختلاف العوامل الداخلة عليها لفظا أو تقديرا. لفظا أو تقديرا أو تقديرا. حسنا. قال ابن عجروم رحمه الله الإعراب هو. So now we move on to the essence of Arabic grammar. Al-i'rabu huwa. It is taghyiru. Taghyiru means from ghayyara, changing, altering. Taghyiru awakhiril. Actually, that shouldn't be. That's awakhiril. Yeah. Awakhiril kalimi. Awakhiril kalimi. Awakhir is a plural of akhir. Final, last. Al-kalimi is a plural of one of the plurals of kalimatun. So the endings of the words, hasanan, al-i'rabu huwa taghyiru awakhir al-kalimi, the endings of the words, likhtilafi, due to the changing or the differences of al-awamili, which we will explain, al-awamili, the actors, ad-dakhilati, entering, alayha, upon them, i.e. upon the endings of these words. Lafdhan, in terms of their lafdh, their pronunciation, that which is apparent, or taqdeeran, that which is assumed. Hasanan. So where do we begin therefore in the explanation of this statement, al-i'rabu huwa? First of all, al-i'rabu. What does i'rabu mean? Well, just as with most terms, when we are speaking about the sciences of the Sharia, they have a term which is lughawi in terms of the meaning in the language, and they have a meaning which is istilahi in terms of the technical definition. Hasanan, there's two definitions here. One in terms of what it means in the language, and two in relation to what it means according to the science that it relates to. In this instance, it is a nahwu, grammar. Therefore, in relation to Arabic, al-i'rabu has two meanings. It means al-idharu, al-idharu, and al-ibana, banatu. What does al-idharu mean? Al-idharu means to make apparent.
Clear.
Al-ibanatu is clear. Al-idhar is for something to become apparent, to be manifest. Al-ibanatu is from al-bayan, that which is clear. So it relates to al-idharu and al-ibanatu. So for example, if you said a'rabtu, because there's a verb here, a'raba, a'raba. A'raba is the verb to pronounce. A'raba, amma fi nafsihi. A'raba amma fi nafsihi. What does that mean? A'raba. A'raba, he communicated or pronounced or declared, however you want to define it. A'raba, amma means about. What? About what? Fi nafsihi. Fi nafsihi. In nafsihi. His nafs, his self. Right? So, if you communicated what is inside yourself, what have you done? So you had a thought inside, Hassanan, you had a thought, and you communicated that. What have you done? You've done two things, haven't you? One, al-idhar, you've made it manifest upon your tongue, and two, you've clarified it. You understand? Two things have occurred. One, it's become manifest, and two, it has become clear. For had you not articulated it upon your tongue, then neither would it be manifest nor would it be clear. Because we cannot see what is inside the hearts. That is for Allah Azza wa Jalla alone, which is why He said frequently in Al-Quran, وَهُوَ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصَّدُورِ. Hasanan, huwa alimun, he is aware, بِذَاتِ الصَّدُورِ, what the sudur contain. So, ya'lamul haqq. The lughawi definition is a'raba, is this, a'raba ma fi nafsi, communicated what is within himself, al-idhar and al-ibana. That's the lughawi definition. As for al-istilahi, that which is in relation to the science, then it is this. This is the definition. It is the changing of the endings of the words due to the actors entering upon them, and those changes will either be lafdhan or taqdeeran. So all that will be explained beginning with the changes. So for example, consider the three ayat the first in Surah Abasa. قتل الإنسان قتل الإنسان ما أكفره قتل الإنسان ما أكفره. حسنا. قتل means he is cursed. فعل ماض. What do we notice about al-insanu? It is مرفوع. وعلامة رفعه it is it's الضمة. Right? الضمة الظاهرة على آخره. So that is قتل الإنسان ما أكفر ما تعجبية. Right? How much he disbelieves. حسنا. Then in Surah Al-Asr, the second ayah. Right. إن الإنسان لا في خسر. إن الإنسان. What do we notice about insana here?
Insana is mansub.
It is a mansubun. So first, in the ayah in Surah Abasa, it is marfu'un with the dhammah. The ayah in Surah Al-Asr, it is mansubun with al-fathatu al-dhahiratu ala akhirihi. Both of these, it is dhahiran, meaning lafdhan. We pronounce it. We read it like that. Right? Therefore it is lafdhan. That's important to remember. Then the ayah, Surah Dahr, Hal ata ala al-insani hinun ala al-insani hinun min ad-dahri. What do we notice about al-insan huna? It is a majrurun. And the indicator that it is a majrurun is? Right. Al-kasratu al-dhahiratu ala akhirihi. It is dhahiran, meaning lafdhan. It is spoken, is it not? Ya Namul Haq, we speak it. We don't assume it to be there. We speak it. Therefore, we can see in these three ayat, al-insanu is mentioned. Al-insanu means
the people.
Not the people, that's an-nasu. This is al-mufrad, singular.
Yeah.
The person, the men, a human being, right? We have al-insan appearing in three different ayat, and in each of the three different ayat, the ending is different. As we said, تغيير أواخر الكلم, the changing of the ending of the word. Why is it changed? Why is it al-insanu here, al-insan there, and al-insani here? Because لِاخْتِلَافِ الْعَوَامِلِ, because of the different or the differing al-awamili. Al-awamili that we need to go on to next, which is the reason for the change. Right? Al-awamil is a plural of amilun. Amilun is the actor acting upon the word, causing the taghyir, the change. Right? The ma'mulun is the word that's caused to be changed, but we're going to explain that. So, ad-dakhilati, entering, alayha, upon it. So therefore that change manifests itself from here, nu to na to ni, either lafdhan, either that which is apparent and spoken, or taqdeeran, it's assumed. Hasanan, right. So let's take 3 simple examples. We want to say Muhammad wrote a book. How do we say that? Ya animal haq.
Kataba Muhammad.
Kataba Muhammadun kitaban Kataba Muhammadun kitaban. So let's perform al-i'rabu of this. Kataba. What type of word is it?
Fi'l madi.
Fi'lun madin mabniyun. Mabniyun, fixed. Fixed upon what?
Fatha.
مبني على الفتح على الفتح. Muhammadun is?
Ismun.
It's an ismun, but what is it here?
Fa'ilun.
Muhammadun fa'ilun marfu'un wa alamatu raf'ihi ad-dammatu ad-dhahiratu ala akhirihi or tanweenu dammin. Right? Kitaban is maf'ulun bihi mansubun wa alamatu nasbihi al-fathatu al-dhahiratu ala akhirihi or tanweenu fathin. Right? So the point to note is that Muhammadun is the fa'ilun. And we have always said that the fa'ilun is marfu'un. Fa'ilun is, actually we'll say al-fa'ilu, so it's a proper jumlatul ismiyya. Al-fa'ilu marfu'un. Al-fa'ilu marfu'un. Now, why is al-fa'ilu marfu'un? Or rather, what has made the fa'ilun marfu'un? Here we have this term al-awamilu. Al-awamilu is the plural of amilun. Amilun. Hasanan. Awamilu is the plural of amilun. Hasanan. Adamilun is the actor, the one who caused the change. Hasanan. The word where that change becomes manifest is called ma'mulun. Ma'mulun. Amilun and ma'mulun. Right? So, we said that al-fa'ilu is marfu'un. The fa'ilun is marfu'un. So first of all, what has caused the fa'ilun to be marfu'un? What? Kataba. Why did the grammarian say kataba? Because kataba is a fi'lun. Therefore, this is al-jumlatul fi'liyatu, right? And al-jumlatul fi'liyatu, it comprises of 2 parts that are required. The first is the fi'lun. The second is the fa'ilun. You must have a fi'lun and a fa'ilun. If there is an ismun that follows the fi'lun, that is your doer, right? That is the person who performed the action. قام بالفعل, he's the one who performed the action. Then that becomes the fa'ilun, right? So I asked you to translate that sentence, Muhammad wrote a book. Who is the one who performed that action of writing? Muhammad. What action are they performing? Writing. So the writing compels a person to perform it. The one who performs it is called the fa'ilun, and the fa'ilun is always marfu'un. So the one or the amilun here, what is the amilun? What is causing Muhammadun to be marfu'un?
His job, the things he did.
Yeah, but what is the amilun? What's causing Muhammadun to be marfu'un? Kataba. Right? Kataba. Because kataba is a fi'lun. And the fi'lun necessitates what? What does it demand? A fa'ilun. It looks for a fa'ilun. If the fa'ilun is in the form of an ismun, which conveys the intended meaning, of course, then that is your fa'ilun. And therefore the amilun is kataba. What is the ma'mulun? What is the word that has been caused to assume a particular state? Which word is it? It's Muhammadun, right? We need to understand these 2 points. Because here Ibn al-Ajrum said لِاخْتِلَافِ الْأَوَامِلِ, because the different al-awamil, the different actors that cause a word to change. Here kataba causes Muhammad to become Muhammadun, because kataba requires the fa'ilun, and the fa'ilun is always marfu'un. So kataba is the amilun. The ma'mulun, the word that has been changed is what? Which word has been changed? Muhammadun.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where this principle is extrapolated from, that the fi'lun requires a fa'ilun. The fa'ilun is an ismun. If that ismun conveys the meaning of what you're trying to say, i.e. that Muhammad is the one who's doing the writing, then that is the fa'ilun, and it's going to be marfu'un. Amilun and ma'mulun. Right. If we want